Hey there, Gus with Makergadgets. Today we're unboxing and assembling the 3rd generation enclosure, the base model specifically that doesn't have the electronics on the left side. However, it's the exact same enclosure as that with the electronics on the left side. Let's take a look. You have the framing pieces. These have a little label for what side they're attached to. You get a box with all the bolts and nuts and goodies. Magnet, door hinge, power for the light. Base model does come with the light. And I actually picked a really big open space on the floor, which to me is the easiest way of putting it together unless you have a really big table. And everything comes wrapped together. So this 3rd generation is actually made in a really nice plastic that's pretty sturdy and has inner framing, so it's much sturdier than the 2nd generation or the Adelina. This is a foam that goes in the front, similar to the Adelina. There's a little sticker here that basically says go to the enclosures page to get the instructions, so we don't have to print it out. The base model comes with a small window on the left side. This small window is used instead of the electronics on the left side. So that same gap works either as a window or for the electronics. So I'll rip all this plastic off that's holding it all together. Aside from that small window, you get 2 acrylic windows. They're 15 inches by 20, 16 inches by 20 inches, so 16 this way, 20 this way. This is for the front, and this is for the right. Put those together with, whoops, supposed to be one window, and then there's the side window. So again, that side window does not come with the unit that has an electronics kit. There's the back panel, everything's labeled. Back panel, top, front. So notice there's a textured side. The stickers should all come on the textured side because that's the side that's facing outward. And then there's a non-textured side, which is the inside, and that's protected by a film, so we'll take that off. Here's the bottom front panel. So you'll notice that the stickers say bottom, which means that this is the bottom panel, the bottom of the box, and front, which means it's the side facing you. This is the left panel. The left panel has either the window like we have for the base unit or the electronics control panel that slips snug into here and replaces that window and gives you all the capacities of the latest technology. So in this case, you'd have smart exhaust system, filtration system, power, USB power, and a USB pass-through. In the future, we are developing, as we develop more models, you can actually pop this out, put a new one in, keep your enclosure. You don't have to buy a new one. Makes it a lot easier. So you can get the latest technologies without having to upgrade your enclosure. Here's the right top, and this one actually doesn't have a label on it, but it should be pretty obvious that this is the front. You've got a window and you've got our logo. So the way I like to do this is, first of all, if you do have a textured side that doesn't have a sticker on it, and the sticker's on the other side, like this case, this is a mistake, this actually should be on the textured side. The only reason is we're about to take this protective plastic off. Once you get it off, if your sticker's on there, you're lost. So just make sure it's on the textured side. So that's the protective film that protects the inside. Get rid of that. This is our right top. And then we'll have to get all of these pieces associated with their framing. Might look a little bit tricky, but it's actually not too bad if you just follow a few steps. So use this video, pause it, rewind it, do it over again. it shouldn't be bad. Shouldn't take us more than, I'd say, about an hour. We put a few together and it takes about an hour. Alright, get the protective. Alright, so first panels I like to start with are the bottom panel and the top panel. This one is the top panel, top front. So that means when the box is facing you, this is the top, or this is the front. So top front is here. So this is the box facing us. Textured side is what's on the outside. So you'll notice that the top and bottom are the same because it's a box. The top does have 2 extra holes here, and that's where you mount the LED lighting. So first things first, mount the LED lighting. It's the easiest way of doing this. Let's check out what we have in our goodies box here. For the base model, you'll have 25mm bolts, 16mm bolts, and 10mm bolts. So in other words, small, medium, large. They each serve a purpose. You also have magnets. These magnets are used to shut the door, so you no longer have to clamp them with 3D printed parts. They're actually magnets that'll hold it together. You'll have hinge bolts, and the hinge bolts work with the hinges. Hinges are also no longer 3D printed. We've got these really strong, heavy, sturdy hinges that connect it by these bolts. And there's a little knob there for the door so you can open and close it. And for the base model only, you'll get a power supply, because the base model doesn't have any electronics other than the light. So this powers your LED light. So this is a really accessible and low cost solution if you just want the enclosure and you have plans for it, maybe doing your own electronics or whatever it is that you're doing, you could DIY it. So let's get all these things out of the way, and really what we'll need are just 2 number 10 bolts, or excuse me, 2 10mm bolts, and nuts. 1, 2, 1, 2. So again, those are 10mm. So over here, you want the electrical line to hang on the closer hole on the inside. So this way. And we'll put a bolt from it. I like to put a bolt from it from the outside so that you don't have a bolt sticking out. Do that. Throw a nut on there. Gotta say this is the nut that I least like putting on, but other than that, all the rest of them are easy. And it only took a couple seconds. Alright, so we have that one on. Now let's work on the next one. You'll see it seems like it doesn't fit. Only reason is because it gives you enough playroom, so you can move this a little bit, move that a little bit, and you're there. When I say move, this end piece here and this end piece here, these 2 end pieces, they slide just a tad, and it gives you a little room for error because not all of these are made perfectly. We try to make them perfectly, but sometimes the machine will move just a tad when we're cutting. And let's get that second one on there. All I'm using is a Phillips head screwdriver. You can put the whole thing together with a Phillips head. Makes it nice and easy. Not too many tools. Most of us should have a Phillips head. Okay, so there's your top panel with the lighting. So remember, this is going to sit like this, and this is going to hang down. So if you have the electronics, the control panel version, then this plugs into the control panel. Everything powers up by just one big AC power, 110 power cord. But in this case, we'll power it individually, and I'll show you how once we get everything together. All right, we're still on the top panel. So let's tear open the framing pieces. And this is really where all the work goes into. It's just matching up the framing pieces and then throwing some nuts and bolts on it. Our previous version didn't have framing, it just kind of snapped together. And it worked well. but we did figure out that framing gives you a little more strength. Okay, so what do we have here? The way these are labeled, they'll say top, back, left, back. The first word on here, top, means that it's for the top. So this one's top, back. Whatever the second word is, it's top, back. The first one's top. So top goes here. Left, that's for the left panel. Left back. Left front, left panel. Bottom right, bottom panel. Right front, right panel. Top left. Bottom front, bottom panel. Bottom back, bottom panel. Bottom left, bottom panel. Top right, top. Top front. 4. Perfect. So, remember the sticker we had on here? Says that this is the top front? Well, that's the easiest one to do. There's a framing piece that goes to the top front. This framing piece is the only framing piece that has only 3 holes. It sits right there. All the rest of them have 3 holes in one direction. Flip it up, 3 holes in the other direction. All the other 3 pieces. But the front piece has only 3 holes. So you should align it so that it's even on both sides. That looks like this is the right way. And I think it only goes in one way. Let's see, if we flip it the other way, then it's not even. So it only goes in one way. Make sure it's even on both sides. Perfect. So what do we use for these? For these we use the medium bolts or the 16mm bolts. 16mm bolts get you right through the piece, but they don't stick out. You don't want them to stick out, when you're putting your printer in, to have it bump up against it. Okay. So let's get these off here. And from the outside in, most of them go in very smoothly. If you get any resistance, just grab the screwdriver, push it through. Just means a little bit of plastic shavings got stuck in there. If you want to use a nut driver, that'd be great too. Screwdriver one side, nut driver on the other side, get them nice and snug. Not necessary, but it doesn't hurt. Okay, we got the front. Now the other 3 pieces. Top right. So remember, what does that mean? Top right means when we're looking at the enclosure, this is the top of the enclosure. This is the right side. Top right, top right. So turn it around, and it's actually on the left side because we're on the inside. Make sure they line up. Only goes in one way, so this way, definitely not. This way, definitely does. These are vertical pieces, so this one lies flat because it's the front of the enclosure, and that's where we're going to put our weather stripping on. This one's vertical because it's going to connect the other piece onto it. Okay? Now for these, since they're vertical, they're a lot longer. You need the 25mm. So basically, when it's vertical, 25mm through. When it's the flat side, 16mm. So 25mm for this side, but when we put the other panel on the side, then we use the 16mm. And the 25mm do stick out a bit, but this is in the vertical direction, so your printer won't run up against it. I'd say get them all through before you put the nuts on. Probably the better way of doing it. And throw them on. I feel like doing it by hand is the fastest way, and then taking the screwdriver to it after to tighten it is the way to go. If you want to use a drill, even better. Okay, tighten them up. guess what the next one we'll do is? Top left, that's top right, which is mirrored because we've got it upside down. Top left is this side. And let's line them up. Okay, that's the right way. Again, if we do it the other way, way off. You have a huge gap here and you're over here. So it only goes in one way. And actually doesn't matter if you flip it. If you flip it, same deal. You can flip it either way and it works. Okay, same deal. So believe it or not, that was the hardest part. So we have done the bottom panel and the top panel. You see that the flat side's on the front. Okay, so now we're on to the left side. We did the top and bottom. They were pretty much the same, and they had the highest number of bolts and, you know, a little bit more complicated. It gets easier, because these side only, the left side and the right side only have 2 framing pieces instead of 4. So this is the left side. The left side, it says left top here, but you can tell it's the left side because it's got one big opening, but not quite an entire window. This is where either the control panel goes or a small window. It also has a small hole at the bottom here, which is an access point for in case you want to run some lines for any other reason, PC line, etc. Okay, so let's take a look at another thing about the left panel over here. You'll see 2 big holes, and then here 2 big holes. These are used for the hinge. So this is the front. This is the top left, which means facing me, this is the left side. And this is where the hinge goes, so you can swing your door open and close. So let's work on the left side. 2 pieces for the left side. Left front, left back. So the side that has the big holes also has big holes on the framing piece. Let's line those up, and this goes flat since it is the front. The entire front of the cabinet always goes on flat. One thing to note is, zoom in. One thing to note here is when you put your framing piece on, you do want to have about an 1/8 inch gap here on the, as a lip, because that's where your weather stripping will go. And that's for the top, bottom, right side, and left side. Your weather stripping goes there. So make sure that when you install this, you don't install it this way when you line the holes up. Because you'll see here it's pretty much flush. You don't want it to be flush with the panel. You want there to be a slight lip, just like that. So just flip it around. And you'll see what I'm talking about. That slight lip is about an 1/8 inch. About 3 millimeters. So let's go ahead and get this on. That's your left panel. I will say, when you put these together, don't put the windows on any of the panels until the very, very end. The reason is because once you put all the panels, once you snap them together, it's nice to have these openings to be able to access bolts to put together here, for the front and for the side. So let's get the left side over here and start on the right side. So this is the right top. Just a rule of thumb here, this is the right side that's facing us. I'm looking into the cabinet, so this is the right side. This is the left side, top and bottom. Right side, to know what the front is, one indicator is the front has 2 extra holes here and 2 extra holes here. That's where the magnets get mounted. And also, the bottom is a little thicker than the top. And of course, you'll always have a sticker that tells you this is the top, right top. Right top. This is the right top. This is the front. And again, the front has the extra holes. And you'll see that on your framing piece, you'll have extra holes as well. Again, that's for the magnets. Make sure that you have an 1/8 inch gap. In this case, your 2 holes here and your 2 holes here should be facing the inside. Yeah. Okay, so now we got the framing pieces on the right side. Remember, flat one in the front where the foam weather strip goes. Vertical one in the back where it connects to the next piece. Let's see, let's tighten that a little bit more. Okay, there we go, that was a little loose. And make sure this one's nice and tight as well. Again, use a nut drive, makes it a lot tighter. I should have brought my nut drive. Nut driver on one side, screwdriver on the other side. The nut driver really does the work because it grabs onto that nut really well. You know, the Phillips head never holds as good as a nut driver. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is turn around. You'll see that you have the 4 holes that I mentioned earlier, and that's for the magnets. So on the right side, so you take this apart, it's a pretty strong magnet. The magnet and the metal piece that the magnet sticks to. The magnet part is what goes on here, on the inside. Okay, so our left panel is all done. Let's see if we got our magnets on. And the magnets are just about, say like a millimeter or 2 in front of the frame. And you'll see that it has slots that move forward and backward. So you can kind of adjust it where you want it, but you basically want your door to just hit that magnet and to touch the foam at the same time. That's the trick. But it's really not that important. Okay, so let's put that on the side. And the last part is to work on our door. So that's gone. So this is the front. And it opens to the left. So you'll notice that over here on the right side of the door, you have small holes. On the left side, you have big holes. The big holes go to the hinges. The small holes go to the magnet metal pieces. And we use 10mm bolts for those. So let's slap them on. That's our front door. Like I said, don't get the window until the end. Hinge bolts. Open that up. You have all the big bolts, as well as this little doorknob. Grab one of these 6mm thick bolts. The other ones are 3mm thick, so this is a big bolt. Throw a nut on it. Put the nut all the way to the bottom. And this is what we're going to use to secure the knob. Same thing, inside out. Put the knob on. And we're all set there. Okay, when it comes to the door, for this side, you go inside, out. Inside, out. Okay, so for the front of the door, start on the inside and come out. Put the nuts on. Don't tighten the nuts. Reason is you want to get this thing squared off before you tighten it. It should square pretty easily. Shouldn't be really much work, but I like to keep the nuts somewhat loose. Put the door down for a second and start piecing everything together. Just like the beginning. Start at the bottom. Bottom piece. And we'll take the right side. So bottom flat piece here, right flat piece here. Put them together. And the best way to do this is turn the piece upward so that you have enough space to look at the bolts going in. When it's flat like that, you have to really get down there, but here you can actually see them. So, in this case, let's take a little camera angle over here. What we're going into is a flat side. So this is when we use 16mm bolts. Alright, we have the right side on, same deal, turn it around, get the left side on. Flat side, flat side, flat side. Okay, now we're putting the top on. Same deal. Okay, so we got the 4 panels on, and now we're just missing the front and the back. So right now this is the front, so let's turn it around. It will be wobbly. It's wobbly because there's no backing to it. So let's turn it on its back, and this is the easiest way of putting the back on. So this backing piece, kind of just set it here. Okay, it meets these two. Slide it over, and you'll see that it doesn't align with the frame hole. So just turn it around. 180 degrees. Do it again. Turn it over, it lines up. So this is the right way. And the backing sets into the box. That way it gives it stability when it's rocking from left to right. Okay, so that's in. And then we just need to set some bolts into it. In this case, we're using 16s. I believe one of these holes doesn't line up, and just don't worry about it. Really, you need almost all of them, but one hole not lining up is okay. Not sure which one it is. It's this guy here. So it's the bottom side. Yep. The bottom middle hole doesn't line up. You can assemble it without it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This middle one we leave empty. So we have 11 bolts. And now that they're all in, just sit it on the bottom. This is the way you actually want it to look. And it's nice that we have this window open because now we can get all the nuts in. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. That's in. So now our box is fully framed and assembled. All it's missing is the front door and the windows. Let's get these hinges hooked in. That's what these are for. Now in this case, we'll go outside in. Now for the holes going through the framing, they are pretty tight. So you'll have to drive that through there. They're supposed to be really snug so that the door stays in place. The door doesn't rock around. Okay, let's open this guy up. It's not completely done. We still have to tighten the bolts here that we left loose in the beginning, remember? So this is how it'll close. See, the magnets snap it shut. And notice there's a slight gap at the bottom. That's okay. That's where the weather stripping is. So the last part is pretty obvious. We're going to take these and we're going to install them. Start off with the little guy. Nice small acrylic piece. So you get a third window. Again, if you have the control panel, you have a front window and a side window, and this left side would be dedicated to control, to electronics. In this case, we don't have electronics, we're just doing the base model, which is just the enclosure, and which means we'll have a third little window to cover this area. 10mm bolts. Let's just dump these guys out, make it easy for us. Okay, so now that we have the last windows on, we put the window on the front, put the window on this side, and put the window on this side. The cabinet's pretty much complete. We tightened the doors. Really, all that's left is measuring this out. You'll see usually you'll get a little bit extra from what you expect. So just cut it down here, pull the tape off, stick it here, and you'll see a very, very quiet shut once it's on because everything's going to be sealed. It helps with noise, it helps with airflow, and that's it. So this is your cabinet and how it looks. And again, the base model doesn't have any electronics, but it's got plenty of windows, and it does come with lights. If you have any questions at all, shoot us an email on support@makergadgets.org.